Where you going? Oh. Gross. Alright, enough for goat talk for the day. I guess very short-ish video to show you that I think might help explain amplifier EQ. What? What's that? This is a piece of software called the Tone Stack Calculator. Only works on PCs. It's basically a simplified version of another program called Spice. Okay, and so what we have here is the tone stack. Right here, that's a tone stack for the Fender. I could also go to Vox or Marshall or back Zandal type. So several different types in here. And so that's the basic schematic of what, like, let's say a Fender Twin would look like, or even like a deluxe reverb. Just the mids are fixed on that. Okay, so basically you can see the EQ curve here, right? So you probably already know this, you may not. That's like your bass frequencies, that's your mid-range right there in the middle. Then over here is like your highs, right? So even with, these are all the controls here. So even with all the controls at noon, like all of them point straight up on the amp, a lot of people think that's neutral. I guess you could call it neutral. It's really not neutral because by design, by design basically, depending on what the signal coming into it looks like, you're going to take out some mids. So what this is, it's basically a passive EQ tone stack, okay? So it's a passive version, meaning it's actually just taking away stuff that's already there. You can see 0 dB is this line all the way across the top. So already we're getting some insertion lost, okay? Fancy word for we're losing some signal. And then these controls give us back a little bit of it. So that's your bass. Take it way down, take it way up, put it back in the middle. Your highs, no highs, a bunch of highs. And then on like a deluxe reverb, this mid control is actually fixed. So you can put an internal trim pot on it. Some boutique guys like to make that in a separate control, like an actual mids. So if you raise the mids up, you get that. You raise the mids down, you get a bigger scoop. So yeah, that's a Fender tone stack. Vox looks like that with everything at noon. A Marshall looks like that. So you probably are aware that Marshalls are a little more mid-rangey. That's part of the explanation why, not the whole story, but that's part of it. And then back Zandal, which we won't get into that much here because it doesn't really apply to too many different amps. And just for fun, here's the big muff, like what you'd find on a big muff. So, and I think that's pretty standard values for the schematic for the big muff Pi Fuzz, in case you're wondering what in the world we're talking about. And you can notice the mids, when that's at noon, the mids are scooped out of that as well, which might give some indication why the mids are scooped on a big muff. So by moving that tone control, that's all the way down, that's all the way up. So you can see it drops the bass, increases the treble. The other way, raises the bass, decreases the treble. So, and there are mods you can do to get that more neutral, just changing the values in here and playing around with it. There are some things you can do on each of these tone stacks. You can do some things, but going back to the Fender tone stack here, it's never going to absolutely be transparent or flat like some people like to believe, or what you're kind of inclined to think when all the EQ controls are at noon. So hopefully that explains some stuff and gives you some insight. All right, and so that is hopefully a quickish explanation of amp-EQs when they're all pointed straight up towards the heavens or whatever you want to call it. If it actually is neutral, if it actually is flat, it's not. So hope this gave you some insight. Maybe if you're a DIYer, it gave you some ideas, and we'll see you in a couple days, or maybe a week or so. See ya.